First question here, 3z squared minus 2z plus 2 equals 0. Looking for some solutions. These are the solutions I think we found, yeah? 1 plus or minus I root 5 on 3. Do I have some agreement? Yeah, I'm getting nods, okay. So just real quick, I think it'll be my next one here. This is me just flat using the quadratic formula on this guy, right? A minor difference that you'll see, like very minor, right at the end there, I've left mine in rectangular form. This is like pretty close to rectangular form, isn't it? But we want to separate out the real part and the imaginary part. That's often very useful for what our next step might be. I'm actually going to hit pause on question 1, 2, whatever it's called, this other one here. You'll see why a bit later on, we'll revisit it. This last one here, so you've got two solutions coming out of this quadratic with complex coefficients. Those complex coefficients make a straightforward use of the quadratic formula. Teeny bit messier, so you may have done that and you would have arrived at the same answer, but this is how my working looks. It's how it looks, okay? Completing the square, you'll arrive at, what have we got here? Let's see, negative 2 minus 2 minus 2i. Looks good to me, right? The advantage is you don't have to deal with long, awkward square root signs and the enormous fraction that is at the heart of the quadratic formula, but all of the arithmetic ends up being the same. So whichever you feel best with, that's okay with me. Are you happy with that? Thumbs up. Please rule that off. And then the heading I would like you to make is roots of unity. Now, let me explain what this means before we dive right in. Last time we were having a look at solving equations that end up with complex solutions, like these, right? Now, one of the reasons for that was so that we could move from square roots of complex numbers into general roots of complex numbers. Not just square roots, but maybe like cube roots, fourth roots, fifth, whatever number. We're going to have a look at nth roots all of this week, but in order to make things like sort of ease us into this, we're going to look at the nth roots of a particular complex number called unity. Now this number is really important. It's so important, it doesn't just have a fancy name like unity, it's got another fancy name. It's called the multiplicative, you can write this down because it's kind of, I mean it's not within the scope of the course, but it's still interesting anyway. It's called the multiplicative identity. You know something's a big deal when it's got a big fancy name like that. What is this special hallowed number? And the answer is, it's 1. You're like, oh really? That was it? Okay. Of course it is 1 because that's why it's unity, like unit, a single object. And of course it's called the multiplicative identity because when you multiply something by 1, the answer is identical, doesn't change, right? 3 times 1 is 3, I times 1 is I. Doesn't change the number, okay? Now you might think, why is it so special? Like 1 seems like a very basic number, why do we give it all these special names? For starters, this is not the only number that we give a special name to, right? Like this guy also has a special name, especially when you think about where it is on the complex plane. What do we normally call this number? We call it the origins. Ooh, special. By the way, it has another name like this as well. It's called the, not the multiplicative identity, it's called the additive identity. Because when you add it to things, it doesn't change. It's identical, right? So we want to focus on this number for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's a simple number, so it's easy to deal with, even though we're in complex numbers. Okay, so we're going to be able to pull out some algebraic and some other tricks that will be useful to us that we can't do with all the rest of the numbers. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2, the roots of unity actually have some really delicious properties, which we'll get to once you find out what they are. Okay, so let's start with the first one that we already don't know, which is we've looked at the square roots of unity. You can work out what they are, by the way. What are the two numbers, the two complex numbers that if you multiply them by themselves will give you 1? Square roots. Think. I know it's the end of a long day and you might not have much sleep, but you can tell me this. What are the two numbers? Give me at least one of them. Think. This is just positive 1, right? So I'll give you one for free. 1 is one of the square roots of 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. What's the other one? It's negative 1, isn't it? Right? Now we usually would exclude negative 1 because we say the principal square root is just 1. But actually we've been sort of exploring that negative 1 times negative 1 still gives you this. So it is also one of the square roots of unity. The next one is the cube roots of unity. So how do we work out what these cube roots are. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you is, if there are 2 square roots of every complex number out there, how many cube roots do you expect there to be? There should be 3, right? Like that's the cubing raised to the 3rd power, okay? So how do we find these 3? You already know about one of them. It's 1, okay? Well, what are the other 2, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the same kind of trick we looked at before. You don't have to write this down, but do you remember when we were finding a square root of a number, we would say, well, there's some number. If you square it, that'll give you whatever complex number you started with, right? Well, I'm going to pull this same trick out, but instead of squaring, I'm going to cube. Okay, let's write this down. So I'm going to use a new Greek letter here. New. This is not a W, it's an omega, or a lowercase omega, I should say. This is the uppercase omega, as fans of Greenland will know. This omega cubed, right? If this omega is the cube root of unity, then when I cube it, I should end up with 1. That's unity, isn't it? Okay. Now, how do I solve this equation? Well, as I mentioned before, because this is a simple number, I can do some things with it that I can't do with other kinds of numbers, right? I can do some sort of algebraic gymnastics here, okay? Now, you guys are used to factorizing things like the sum and difference of squares. We know how to do that, right? We can do difference of squares through normal numbers. We can do sum of squares using the imaginary unit. This is not the sum or difference of squares, it's the sum or difference of cubes. But thankfully for us, there is actually a result that is a nice factorization of this. It used to be part of the course, it's no longer, but some of you might have encountered it before. Does anyone know what the factorization is? Morgan?
So you factorize W minus 1. Omega minus 1.
That's okay, I knew what you meant.
Omega
and then?
Minus 1, and then omega plus. Omega squared plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then omega, and then plus 1.
Okay, so this result right here is called the difference of cubes. Here's 2 cubes, you're taking the difference, and this is the factorization. As I pointed out, it's not in the course anymore, so don't stress out if you've never seen this before. But just for the rest of you who are like, this is new, let's just content ourselves that this is not just black magic, it actually works. Let's expand it out, it's not hard, right? I'm going to multiply everything by omega, and then I'm going to multiply everything by minus 1. Watch, it just kind of falls out, right? Here's me multiplying by omega, and then here's me multiplying by minus 1, but I'm just going to write it down here. Are you okay with that? That's the 6 terms you get. You're like, cancel, 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 ta-da, there's my difference of cubes. Okay, so it does work. You can content yourself for that. Now, at this point, we're trying to solve for omega. We already knew one of the solutions. Here it is, omega equals 1. We already knew this. But then you've got this other factor. This can equal 0. We've dealt with that. But if this equals 0, these should be our other mystery cube roots, right? So I need to solve this guy. Omega squared plus omega plus 1 equals 0. If I can solve this, I'll have my other 2 solutions. Now, thankfully for you, you've solved this exact equation quite recently, like all of 15 minutes ago, okay? They're right here. These are the other solutions. If you didn't know this, of course, if you didn't have a teacher who gave it to you as a starter question, you'd have to go through the process of solving this using the quadratic formula, okay? But these would be the answers you get. So let's just quickly jot that down. Negative 1/2. I'm actually going to separate these out as the 2 separate numbers, okay? I've got the negative case, so minus root 3 onto I. And then I've got the positive case. I've still got negative 1/2 out the front, but now it's plus root 3 onto I. This is our result. We've got cube roots. We have 3 numbers. Here's one of them. Here is a second one. And here is a third one. Ta-da! Now, what we're going to do is go in 2 directions from here. I mentioned before that these cube roots have, or actually all the roots of unity, have interesting properties to them. To try and sort of bring that out, what I'd like you to do is to plot on an Argand diagram all 3 of these complex numbers. That's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. And then secondly, we're going to come up with these same results, but we're going to use a few of the other tools in our toolbox to get there and see if we can gain some insights from that. So, whilst I arrange myself on the board, go ahead, draw yourself an Argand diagram and find where 1, 2, 3 of our cube roots should belong. Okay? Off you go. What do we got here? On our complex plane, hopefully you have 1 minus a half or negative a half minus root 3 on 2i, and then its conjugate, negative a half plus root 3 on 2i, and there they are, positioned. What can you tell me about these particular points on the complex plane? Anyone want to jump out? There's a lot of things to observe. Anyone want to start us off? Morgan's got a thought. I will hit pause on Morgan because he's already contributed some great thoughts today. Jiayu, do you notice anything worth pointing out?
The length between negative 1 plus root 3 on 2i to 1 is actually equal to the length on negative 1 over 2 minus root 3 on 2i.
Okay. So there's some symmetry here, right? We should expect this because these two are conjugates, so they're the exact same distance from the real axis. So the distances that I think Jiayu was talking about were these. Are these the ones you're talking about, right? These two are in fact equal. They're not just equal to each other, they're equal to something else. Where else are they equal to each other? Yeah, there's a vertical between these two conjugates, right? In fact, this sure looks like an equilateral triangle. Now, I should point out, it looks equilateral. I don't know if your diagram is good enough to reason that, but we can actually prove it. Before we do that, are there any other things, like apart from the fact that it looks equilateral, any other things that we can observe? Anything worth noting? Yeah, Susie. Okay, yeah, let me put the center on. I'll put it a different color. Yes, what about the center? Fantastic. So the distance from each of our cube roots to the origin, so I could indicate it like so, and like so. Those distances, we have a name for this, by the way. Distance to the origin starts with an M. This is the modulus, okay? So the modulus of each of these cube roots is equal. And since I actually know the length of this, what is the length of this, by the way? The horizontal one? That's 1, because that's where you are. These are all 1 as well, right? So they're all 1 unit away from the origin. That shouldn't surprise us that much because when we multiply these things by themselves successively, we want to end up on 1, right? We want to end up on unity. If they were any smaller, then as you multiply, they will shrink and shrink and shrink and get close to the origin, right? If they were any further away, as you successively multiply, you'll get further away from the origin. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other things that you observe? Morgan, give us one more.
The argument is rotating. You rotate the argument the same.
Okay, you rotate the argument the same. So when we go from one cube root to the next, right, you can see there is, rotation is part of multiplication, like complex arithmetic, and you can see this rotation around. Because they all add up to 2 pi radians, right, and because there's 3 angles there, what's the size of each angle? 2 pi on 3, which of course you could verify if, for instance, you chose like one of these guys and converted it into polar form. You'd be able to verify that fact. Does that make sense? Okay.